Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Andrew Upshaw Fishing. First off, thank you so much everybody subscribe to my channel. Really do appreciate it. If you don't mind, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. But in the meantime, let's get right down to business. I want to talk to you about a system of baits that has made me a lot of money, but it's always a lot of fun to catch fish on, and that's fishing baits weightless. Texas rig, but without the weight. The first bait that comes to mind for most people is a stick bait, and all stick baits are pretty good. I mean, the deal is it's just a profile, the way it shimmies, the way it casts, things like that. A couple really good ones on the market. I throw the Ocho, and it's really the one I turn to all the time now, especially from Cherokee. It comes in a lot of different sizes, from 4 to 6 inches, maybe even a 7 inch. I don't know. I throw the 4, 5, and 6 most of the time. But when I'm throwing a weightless bait, and when I'm saying Texas rig weightless, hook rigged like this, I'm going to throw a 5 inch almost 95% of the time. I just really like that 5 inch Ocho. It sinks right, has the right amount of salt content, so it casts a long ways, has that right sink rate to put fish in the boat. The other good one that most of you know about is the Yamamoto Senko. Yamamoto Senko is a great bait as well. Actually a little bit lighter than the Ocho. The Ocho is a little bit heavier, honestly. So I feel like I get a little bit better casting distance out of the Ocho than the Senko, but I still fish some Senkos because they have some really unique colors that I like. But when we're talking about colors, there's a wide gamut of colors. I try to keep mine extremely basic. If the water's dirty, I throw black and blue June bug. If it's kind of stained, I throw green pumpkin, maybe some flake, maybe not. If the water's clear, I throw watermelon hues. And I feel like if you follow that rule of thumb, when you're fishing weightless baits, you're gonna most of the time be successful, especially if those fish are shallow. And that's what we're targeting with these weightless baits, is shallow cover fish. And so with that, I'm fishing most of the time a weightless bait in the spawn. So right now it's spawning here in Oklahoma. The spawn's kind of wrapping up a little bit in Texas and certain lakes. It's probably over certain lakes. It's still going pretty strong. But a weightless bait is a great way to catch those fish. Today I picked up a green pumpkin one. I started down the bank. I had one bite. It was a short strike, and I just didn't feel like that was the right color. Switched up to June bug and started putting a couple fish in the boat, and a couple nice ones at that. And you know, I think that makes a huge difference. Is not necessarily changing a flake color, but changing a color hue, and that's where you're going to see the most results from fishing that stick bait. But it's way beyond just fishing a stick bait weightless. I fish a bunch of different baits weightless, and I'm gonna point out a couple of those to you right now. The first one that I fish weightless is an 8-inch lizard. An 8-inch lizard is a great spawning bait. You don't have to throw a weight on it either, and that's what makes it so cool, is I actually fish it weightless. And a buddy of mine turned me on to this a long time ago, and I've never looked back. I mean, especially on a lake where every single person's throwing a stick bait, I can pick up this 8-inch lizard and rig it up, Texpose just like this, and I can throw it just as easily, just as far. And you can't cast it as far as you throw a stick bait because a stick bait is so heavy, and there's definitely a weight difference. But I can chunk this thing around in that shallow cover around targets, and I can get those bites. But I throw it on a 5 to 6/0 G Finesse hook. And the G Finesse hook is the exact same hook that I throw on my Ocho or my Senko. The Ocho and Senko I throw a 4/0 size, and the 8-inch lizard I actually throw a 5 to 6/0 depending on if I need that extra weight. And that's what's really cool about that hook, is that the heavier or the larger gauge that you go to. So if I go from a 5 to a 6, there's definitely a weight difference in the hook. So I can actually, on a calm day, throw a 5/0, and on a windy day, throw a 6/0, and I'll get a little bit further cast with that 6/0 and get a little faster sink rate, and that's what you need on those windy days. And I keep the lizard really similar. I actually only throw 2 colors in the 8-inch lizard. I throw either California 420 or black neon, and I base it solely off of watercolor again, or cloud cover. You know that's something that people kind of forget sometimes, is cloud cover throws such a shadow in the water. It is almost equal to, in my opinion, as dirty water. So if it gets extremely overcast and the water's fairly clear, if if it gets super dark outside, I want to throw something black, June bug, something like that, some darker hue color, because those fish are going to be able to see it, track it better. And that's a big key when you're fishing these baits weightless, especially in shallow water. I mean, you're talking about 6 inches to 2.5, 3 foot of water. I mean, that's not a whole lot of space for them to see that bait, and if they can't see it, that's a big problem. And I mean, you're talking about colors and water. I mean, you got to make sure that the fish can see it. Now, to bounce over to another bait that I really enjoy catching on weightless, and that is a rage bug. I use the same 5/0 G Finesse hook on this. I throw it on really the exact same tackle I throw my Ocho on, and I'm going to break down how to fish it, why I fish it, what I target with it here in just a minute. But I really want to break down a couple of the baits first. I throw the weightless structure bug for one reason, and I've done it quite a few times, and I've had a lot of success with it actually, and it's a great bait to throw. But the reason I throw the weightless structure bug is for those times when you're fishing that dirt shallow water, when a stick bait actually is too much of a profile for them. And I know that sounds super crazy, but a 5-inch stick bait is too much. It's just too much. And that 4 to 6, 8 inches, when they're just dirt shallow, their bellies are on the mud, that's when I throw the weightless structure bug. And the cool thing about the structure bug is it still has action without a weight on it. And I think that's what makes it so important, is you can reel that thing right through the water, kind of like a swim jig or even a topwater toad. I mean, you're going to reel it. It's going to stay pretty close to the top if you reel it. And I just throw it out there and reel it around, kind of like a swim jig, kind of pop it a little bit. Dude, you'd be surprised how many fish will come up and eat that thing. It's actually quite cool. I keep colors extremely basic on that as well. Watermelon red, June bug, black and blue, stuff like that. Green pumpkin. I mean, you just can't beat them. You know, I feel like, and I used to a long time ago, I say a long time ago, a few years ago, I used to get so focused on color. I was saying like green pumpkin candy to green pumpkin purple flake, and I would be like, oh, well, they're not going to eat that green pumpkin candy. They're only eating green pumpkin purple. I got to throw green pumpkin purple, and truly, it was all right here. And in fishing, that's where we let ourselves get in our head way too much. So when I'm up there shallow, if I'm changing baits up, it's not necessarily that I'm getting in my head, but sometimes, especially when a big fish has been caught a couple times, or they've had trolling motors go over their head a bunch, you gotta throw them something different sometimes. But how many things can you throw weightless? You know, I mean, yeah, you could throw the gamut out there. You could throw every bait weightless if you wanted to. But these right here, these baits, from a stick bait, the 8-inch lizard to the structure bug, these are all baits that I've had superior success with fishing weightless. Now, go throw something else. Go try it. Don't be afraid to pick up your favorite bait that you throw on a Texas rig and throw it weightless. You know, it's funny I say that because one of my best friends, one of his favorite baits that he throws weightless is a 10-inch worm. A big 10-inch curly tail worm. He throws it out there and fishes it and reels it through grass and real shallow cover pads especially. You know, another great worm that you can fish weightless is like an ultra vibe speed worm, like with the big one, the mag ultra vibe speed worm, or even the Magnum cutter worm. The Magnum cutter worm will get you a lot of big bites, and all you do is reel it right under the surface with a 5 to 6/0 hook. That same G Finesse hook, man, I just have a lot of confidence in that G Finesse hook. I'd hardly ever lose them. It's super duper sharp, keeps them pegged up, and to me, that's something that's extremely important. So let's break down gear real quick. Let's just talk about gear. I know not everybody wants to hear about gear, but I think it's extremely important because less is more in this case. I throw one rod for all my weightless rigs and most of my Texas rigs, and that's a TP1 Black. It's a 7.2 medium heavy. I think it's a jig rod is what they actually call it. It's far from a jig rod. I don't throw a jig on this rod, like at all. But this TP1 Black is such a good rod. I throw anywhere between 15 and 17 pound line on my weightless rigs. It seems like the heavier the fluorocarbon, the harder it is to cast. So I try to keep it in that range. I know a bunch of guys fish weightless stick baits on 12 pound, 10 pound. I just personally can't go that low. It's not because I have a monstrous hook set. I've just had my feelings hurt a few too many times that I won't go quite that low. But you know, the cool thing about fishing a weightless bait is I fish it in a way that I would actually recommend is fast but slow. And what I mean by that is I look at specific targets, and I'm fishing a target. These are target. When I'm fishing weightless baits, I'm actually fishing targets. So what I'm doing is I'm casting over to a log or an edge of the grass, a corner, something that I feel like a fish is sitting right where my bait landed. I'm gonna let it sink. I'm gonna pull it up and I'm gonna shake it a couple times. I'm gonna let the bait drop again. Let it hit back down to the bottom. I'm gonna pop it back up, shake it a couple times, let it sink again. I'll do it one more time. If I don't have a fish on there, guess what I'm doing? I'm reeling it in and making another cast. You know, I'm not saying you can't fish that thing all the way back out to the boat and catch a fish, but I'm gonna tell you this. The more you let your worm soak in the water, the less targets you can hit. So let's just say if it takes you on average, you know, a minute and a half to get a cast in, I might have already hit 10 targets by then, 15 targets. So I've covered more efficient and effective water by fishing fast but slow than you have by fishing the entire cast out. And to me, and maybe I'm wrong, to me, the more effective targets that you can fish, the more fish that you're going to catch. And actually, the bigger the fish, everything's more when you fish fast but slow. Everything. So here again, we'll show you one more time so you get the gist of it. You let it sink. So I'm dead sticking it right now. I'm letting that bait soak in the water. And I'm going to shake it up. It's subtle or as fast as you want to. And you can watch your line. I let my line lay on the water because I want to see if it ticks or anything. I want to see if it swims off, whatever. And you're only doing it a couple times, 2 or 3 times at max. Because if that fish is sitting in that target, he's going to eat your bait. I mean, almost instantly. You know, to me, man, that's just what makes this weightless fishing so effective. Now, if you want to add weight to your weightless bait, and you can, I recommend getting a nail weight. A nail weight, you can add a really small nail to the tail end of your stick bait, or you can add it to the tail end, this section right here of the lizard. And by the way, this is a Zoom 8-inch lizard. You know, I had a guy tell me the other day that, man, all you do is talk about sponsors and stuff. First off, not sponsored by Zoom, not sponsored by Yamamoto, not sponsored by any hook company. These are just things I like to fish, and I want to share this information with you. So, anyways, get back to it. That you put the nail weight here in the tail, it's gonna kind of make it glide backwards, and that's actually a good little trick, is that gliding backwards action. But you know, when fishing it though, you just gotta pay attention, man. And the cool thing is you're not always gonna feel that tick either. One of the fish I caught today, if you look here, I couldn't even catch up with this fish. I mean, he's screaming across there. Now, granted, he was a tiny one. I mean, an absolute tiny one. But I couldn't even catch up with that fish because he was running so hard. And that's when you got to really pay attention. You got to really have a sensitive fishing pole. And that's going to help you know when you have those strikes. Because if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of fish, or you're going to kill a lot of fish because they're going to swallow your hook. So hey guys, thank you again for tuning in for this show. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner. I got another great video coming next week. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.